Alright, welcome to my little intersection of athletic science, traditional martial arts, and niche investing. Last week I discussed the main materials in lithium-ion batteries and compared their price action during 2022 to the price action we saw during the last couple decades. This week I'm looking at a few different companies that are at different stages of scaling their respective battery recycling technologies. The exercise I'll describe this week is the pull-up. As I start moving into more weight with my pull-ups, I'm encountering a bit of inner elbow pain afterwards. While I initially assumed this to be tennis elbow, I quickly discovered that the condition refers to the outer elbow. The inner elbow variant is called golfer's elbow, and it's a common affliction for chin-ups. So I'll discuss a little bit about what I've discovered this week. So before talking about the pull-up, I'll discuss the elbow itself briefly. The inner elbow has quite a large bony protrusion where pretty much all the tendons of your forearm attach and allow you to grip and flex your wrist. So soft tissue pain really close to a bone attachment is almost certainly a tendon issue, which is likely to progress into some sort of tendinitis if not addressed. I'll note that I have had this same pain with bicep curls in the past, so this issue is not actually triggered by the pull-ups themselves, they just seem to be re-aggravating it as I start to add weight. It's a condition that can also pop up in bench pressing and squatting if your grip is too tight. And since I am squatting back and forth with my pull-ups, it's possible that this gripping is an aggravating condition as well. I'm just starting my research about this, so I'm just going to mention a few different things I plan to try based on three takes from three different channels I followed to various degrees over the past few years. I'll link each video in to the description. So AthleanX suggests that different tweaks to your grip in case the problem is stemming from your forearm muscles and the way you're gripping and maybe flexing your wrist if and when you try and cheat your reps towards the end if you're getting fatigued at the end of a set. Squat University shows lots of diagnostic exercises that target the rotator cuffs and muscles around the shoulder blade in case that's where the issue is coming from. Bodyweight Warrior then has some massage suggestions specifically for tendons. All said, this is a complicated area and I'm not sure where my issue is actually coming from, so I'm just going to try some different things and report back at a later date, maybe a few weeks or a month or two. So for the battery recycling companies, I chose 4 different public companies from 4 different countries, as well as one that is expecting to IPO very soon on yet another country's exchange. Hopefully these videos can help to demystify some aspects of the industry and help us think about how this industry might evolve with increasing lithium-ion battery usage, especially due to increased EV adoption. My disclosure is that I have no position in any of these companies mentioned and have not been paid in any way for producing this video or compiling this research. I don't expect to initiate a position in any of these companies in the next 12 months either. On to the companies. So the companies that I've planned to cover here are American Manganese, American Battery Technology Company, Eco-Graf, Lithium Cycle, Li Cycle, and Sungeel Tech. So that's one company that's on the TSX, 2 companies on the New York Stock Exchange, 1 company that's on the Australian Stock Exchange, and one that's about to IPO on the KOSDAQ, which is in South Korea. So I don't have enough time to dig into each of these companies in any real detail, so I'll give a high-level overview of where they are at with their projects. They could each get their own full-on dedicated video someday, and if you like that idea, feel free to drop a like or a comment, wink wink, nudge nudge. But one important point I want to mention first is that I'm going to be ignoring Chinese recyclers. This is primarily because buying Chinese securities as a foreign investor is, for lack of a better word, it's a rigged game. And considering how they handle the environmental impacts of rare earth elements mining, for example, I would be very suspicious of any claims made by the recyclers in China regarding the environmental impact of their technology or process. That's definitely not to say that companies on the TSX or ASX have pristine records, but you are getting into a whole other world with China. So my armchair punditry cannot even scratch the surface of what you need to know to make an informed investment decision in a company in that jurisdiction. With that being said, China has a dominant position in the battery supply chain, which makes me pretty certain that they will be highly competitive in this market in the coming decades. Okay, on to American Manganese. So their biggest press release at the moment is announcing on May 26th the testing of their newly ramped up 500 kilogram per day demo plant. So if it were running continuously, 500 kilograms per day would amount to about 180 tons per year. So you can keep that number in mind when you hear some of the other companies. American Manganese is pre-revenue at this time, so I'm just going to report on their cash position. As of January 2022, they had 23 million Canadian in cash, and that was mainly due to a $19 million equity raise that they were able to do during the second half of 2022. If you look at their 6-month burn rate, this works out to around 18 months of runway, if the burn rate stays steady. I'm not going to comment on the company further than that today. Moving on to Eco-Graf. So this is the Australian one. They're listed on the ASX. And their basic business model is to import flake graphite, and they're promoting or deploying, their project is, I believe, under construction right now. They're promoting a new processing method for anode graphite. The key pitch behind the technology is that it's free of hydrofluoric acid. I'd love to see this happen, and Australia has all sorts of good things going for it from a battery resources perspective. So it makes sense that they are making a push for a bit more value capture of the battery supply chain. I will say though that Orbit, which you can listen to in another video that I've done, Orbit made similar claims about their novel alumina extraction process. It ain't around anymore. Okay, now to lithium cycle, Li-Cycle. So here's an interesting surprise. Li-Cycle had a press release dated June 27 saying that they just got onto the Russell 2000 small caps index with the rebalancing. So from my little group of 5 companies, these guys are definitely in the lead. They have 20,000 tons of annual production operating today and another 25,000 tons under construction, including what they're calling the hub of their plant, hub and spoke growth plans. So what's more, with a 6-month net gain of $7 million, they may actually be looking to turn the corner on their 2021 loss of $227 million. This is pretty impressive, actually. I wasn't expecting to see a company with these kinds of growth trajectories to be actually turning a profit. But these guys have their fiscal year ending in July 31st, so that was a 6-month unaudited report. Moving on. Sungeel Tech, that's the Korean one. They're going for an IPO in July, but I did notice another press release from last year that said that the company was targeting an IPO in January. So it's very possible that this July target will be missed as well. At any rate, they're trying to raise 110 million USD for their growth. They haven't posted any financials on DART yet, DART being Kosdaq's online filings registry, similar to EDGAR for the SEC. They do report some profit and loss figures on their website though, in Korean, but I just used a translator. I'm not going to dig into it more deeply than to report that they reported a loss of 7.9 million US in fiscal year 2021, which is a larger loss than the 1.7 million that they reported in 2022. These guys are producing. They have plants operating in, I think, more than one country, but for the moment they are losing money. They seem to have a number of production facilities, but I don't have any company reported numbers. It's all in Korean, that stuff, so I haven't actually gone in and tried to get them translated. So I'm not going to try and comment further from here. Then we get into American Battery Technology Company. So these guys are building a recycling center near Reno, Nevada. They've got a $2 million grant that has been awarded to them by the Department of Energy, among other parties, for an integrated recycling and cathode production system. Looks pretty impressive. It turns out that they're the ones who picked up the Tonopah Flats prospect. If you've heard my previous video, Tonopah was a place that I did a little bit of gold prospecting, and the maps had been showing lithium for quite some time. So it's cool to see that that this company has picked it up and they're going to try and do it. So they're doing some exploration drilling now. But if you're into lithium in geothermal brines, which is essentially what they're trying to find and prove as a viable resource here, if you're interested in that stuff, you might want to check out some of the Clayton Valley and Salton Sea projects first, because those areas have been getting explored for quite a bit longer, and you probably find some more mature projects there before you start trying to dip your toes into Tonopah Flats.
Of course, none of this is financial advice. If you're interested in investing into a niche like battery materials, please be very mindful that these are super high-risk ventures. Just the fact that the supply of recycled batteries is almost entirely dependent on the future demand for EVs means all sorts of things could go wrong for the broad industry. Then you start running into company, country, and property-specific challenges and opportunities. But it's entrepreneurs like these that build our future and help us to avoid the environmental mistakes of the past. So I'm very glad to say that the industry looks healthy to me at the moment, and who knows, we may see Li-Cycle break into the S&P 500 sometime this decade. That'd be a huge win for the proponents of the circular economy. So stay tuned on that, and thanks for watching. Bye.